You're sitting in the waiting room of a tire shop, watching a mechanic disappear with your car keys. The repair is going to cost $842. You already know that because they called 20 minutes ago. You also know something else. 6 months ago, this would have gone straight onto a credit card. Today, it doesn't. You don't reach for your wallet with panic anymore. You open your banking app, glance at the emergency fund, and quietly approve the repair. The money leaves the account. Your life doesn't. Nobody around you notices what just happened. To everyone else, it's just another Tuesday morning. To you, it's the first time a financial emergency has stayed exactly what it was. An inconvenience, not a disaster. You lean back in the plastic chair while rain taps against the shop window. The television hanging in the corner is muted. Cycling through daytime news nobody is really watching. Across from you, a man argues softly on the phone. "I'll figure something out." You recognize that sentence because you used to say it. The difference is that today you don't have to. Strangely, the feeling isn't excitement. It's silence. 6 months ago, silence around money didn't exist. Every purchase came with a conversation inside your head. Can I afford this? Should I wait until payday? What if something else happens? Those questions followed you everywhere. The grocery store, the gas station. Even coffee somehow became a financial decision instead of just coffee. Looking back now, you realize the biggest mistake wasn't spending too much. It wasn't earning too little. It was something much quieter. You were making every money decision one day at a time. And that's how the trap began. 6 months earlier. Monday. 6:18 in the morning. The alarm rings 3 times before you finally reach over and silence it. The room is dark except for the glow of your phone. Before your feet touch the floor, you're already checking your bank account. Current balance, $417. Rent comes out Friday. Your credit card payment is due Wednesday. Your car insurance renews next week. You don't calculate anything. Your brain does it automatically because it's been rehearsing these numbers for months. You close the app before looking too long. Somehow, avoiding the number feels safer than understanding it. By the time you reach the kitchen, coffee is brewing, but your mind is somewhere else. You remember the dinner from Saturday night. Nothing extravagant. Just burgers with coworkers after work. 7 people splitting the bill. Your portion came to $34. You smiled, tapped your card, acted like it wasn't a problem, then spent the drive home wondering whether $34 was going to matter next week. Not because $34 changes anyone's life, because every decision feels connected to 10 other decisions you haven't solved yet. At work, the conversations are familiar. Trevor just financed a brand new pickup truck. Emily booked flights to Miami for Labor Day. Someone else is talking about the newest iPhone like replacing last year's model is the most normal thing in the world. You nod, smile, pretend you're listening. But the only number replaying in your head is $417. During lunch, you eat leftovers from home while scrolling social media. Vacation photos, restaurant videos, apartment tours, designer watches, luxury gyms. Everyone seems to be upgrading their life. You begin wondering why yours always feels like maintenance instead. That evening, you stop at a grocery store. You don't buy what you want. You buy what fits inside the invisible budget you've never actually written down. Walking back toward your car, you notice a family loading groceries into a new SUV. 2 kids laughing in the back seat, parents smiling. Without realizing it, you invent an entire financial story about strangers. They must have everything figured out. Maybe they make twice as much. Maybe they're just better with money. You drive home feeling like everyone received instructions for adulthood except you. That night, you finally decide to look, really look. Laptop open, blank spreadsheet. No budgeting app, no colorful charts, just numbers. Checking account, savings, credit card, car payment, monthly income, rent, insurance, utilities, groceries, subscriptions you forgot were still charging. The total surprises you. Not because you're broke, because nothing looks individually irresponsible. It's dozens of small decisions quietly working together. Streaming services, food delivery, impulse shopping, random subscriptions, convenience purchases. None of them destroyed your finances. Together, they quietly built a life where every paycheck already belonged to someone else before it even arrived. You stare at the screen for a long time. Then you notice something unexpected. The problem isn't this month's spending. It's that you've been rebuilding your financial life from zero every single month. Paycheck arrives, bills leave. Whatever survives becomes spending money. Next paycheck. Repeat. Nothing carries forward except stress. You open another tab. Not your bank. A calendar. You scroll backward through the last 12 months. Every financial emergency suddenly looks familiar. Flat tire, unexpected dentist visit, holiday shopping, birthday gifts, vet bill, apartment deposit. Every one of them felt unexpected. Yet somehow, something unexpected happened almost every month. Maybe they weren't emergencies anymore. Maybe they were simply part of life. That thought sits differently. For the first time, your problem doesn't feel mysterious. It feels predictable. And predictable problems can finally have predictable solutions. Outside, rain begins hitting the apartment windows. You close the laptop. Nothing is fixed. The balances haven't changed. The debt is still there. Tomorrow morning, you'll wake up to the same numbers. But tonight, something feels different. Not because you have more money. Because for the first time, you've stopped lying to yourself about where it keeps disappearing. The next morning, you don't wake up with motivation. You wake up with the same bank balance, the same bills, the same job. Nothing about your life looks different. That's the strange part about changing your finances. The beginning never feels like progress. It feels like paperwork. Before work, you make coffee and open the spreadsheet again. Yesterday, you found where the money went. Today, you need to decide where future money will go. Not every dollar. Just the next one. You create 4 simple categories: bills, future, freedom, everything else. The names matter more than the percentages. For years, every paycheck arrived without a purpose. Now every dollar is getting an assignment before it ever reaches your debit card. You aren't trying to become rich. You're trying to stop every financial decision from feeling like an emergency meeting. At lunch, Trevor walks into the break room carrying a shopping bag, new wireless headphones. They were on sale, he says. You almost laugh. You remember saying the same thing about things you never planned to buy. Sales never saved you money. They simply changed the reason you spent it. That evening, you cancel 3 subscriptions. None of them are expensive. One costs $11. Another is $16. The last one is barely $8. For a second, it feels pointless. $35 won't change your life. Then you remember something. Neither did spending it. The following Saturday, you clean your apartment. Not because it's messy. Because you keep finding things you forgot you owned. A blender still inside the original box. Running shoes you wore twice. A smartwatch sitting inside a drawer with a dead battery. You line everything across the living room floor. Months ago, these purchases felt exciting. Now they look like tiny receipts from versions of yourself that disappeared almost immediately after buying them. You spend the afternoon listing everything online, one by one. Nothing sells instantly. You don't care. By Sunday evening, 3 items are gone. The total isn't life-changing, just under $460. You transfer every dollar into a separate savings account before you have time to invent another use for it. You don't call it savings. You rename the account. Buffer. Because that's what your life has been missing. Not more income. Space between you and bad luck. A week later, your coworker Emily invites everyone to dinner after work. The restaurant is downtown. You already know it'll cost around $60. For the first time, you don't automatically say yes. You pause. Not because you can't afford it, because you've finally started asking a different question. Is this worth trading progress for? Sometimes the answer will be yes. Tonight it isn't. You politely decline. Driving home feels strangely quiet, not lonely, intentional. You begin noticing how often money leaves your account simply because saying no feels awkward. Some expenses weren't really purchases. They were social decisions. The following Friday, payday arrives. Normally, the money would sit in checking until bills slowly drained it away. This time, something different happens. Within 15 minutes, money moves automatically. Rent, utilities, insurance, the buffer account, an extra payment toward your highest interest credit card. What's left stays in checking, not because it accidentally survived, because it was supposed to. For the first time in years, your paycheck arrives with instructions. 2 weeks later, something unexpected happens. Your manager asks whether anyone wants overtime on Saturday. Usually, everyone volunteers. You almost do. Then you stop. You realize something uncomfortable. For years, you've been trying to solve spending problems by working more hours. Sometimes that helped. Sometimes it only funded bigger spending. You still accept the overtime. But this time, you already know exactly where every extra dollar is going before you earn it. That changes everything. By the end of the month, you open the spreadsheet again. The numbers aren't dramatic. The debt still exists. The emergency fund is still small. Your paycheck isn't magically bigger. But one number catches your attention. Your credit card balance finally moved below a line it had stayed above for almost 2 years. You stare at it longer than you expected. Not because the amount matters, because momentum does. You suddenly understand something nobody ever explained. Wealth isn't built during exciting months. It's built during ordinary Tuesdays when nobody is watching, especially you. The biggest money mistake was never one expensive purchase. It was believing tomorrow would somehow fix what today's habits kept creating. Now tomorrow is finally starting to look different. Not because your income changed, but because your behavior finally did. 3 months later, you're standing in line at the grocery store when your phone vibrates. Your employer has deposited your paycheck. Without thinking, you open your banking app. Not because you're worried, but because you want to make sure everything happened. It did. Part of your paycheck already moved into the buffer account. Another payment went toward your credit card. Your retirement contribution left before the money ever reached checking. Everything happened exactly the way you planned it weeks ago. You closed the app in less than 10 seconds. 6 months ago, you would have stared at that screen for half an hour. Now there's nothing to negotiate. The system already made the decision. You simply kept the promise your past self made. Walking through the parking lot, you realize something strange. Money occupies less space in your mind than it used to. Not because you have so much of it, because every dollar already knows where it's supposed to go. A few weeks later, your car won't start. The repair estimate comes back at $842. The old version of you would have reached for a credit card before the mechanic finished talking. Instead, you transfer the money from the buffer account. The balance drops. The problem disappears. No debt. No panic. No pretending it'll somehow work itself out. Driving home, you keep thinking about something. The repair didn't make you richer. It proved you had stopped getting poorer every time life surprised you. That feeling is worth more than the money itself. Spring turns into summer. One afternoon, your manager asks if you have a few minutes. You walk into the office wondering what went wrong. Instead, he thanks you for handling several projects nobody else wanted. He offers you a raise. Nothing dramatic, just enough to notice. Driving home, you think about what 6 months ago would have happened. A bigger apartment, a nicer phone, maybe even a newer car. Lifestyle inflation. You finally understand why so many people earn more every year without ever feeling wealthier. Every raise quietly becomes permission to spend more. This time, you make a different decision. Half of every future raise belongs to your future before it belongs to your present. You increase your retirement contribution. The rest stays exactly where your system already planned for it. The raise disappears. Your future doesn't. One Saturday afternoon, Trevor invites you to the dealership. He's trading in his truck after only 2 years. The salesman walks you around a brand new SUV, leather seats, panoramic roof, huge digital display, monthly payment, $689. The salesman says the number the same way someone might say the weather, as if it's ordinary. You sit inside for a moment. You can almost picture yourself driving it. Then another picture appears. That same $689 invested month after month, quietly growing while nobody notices. For the first time, the invisible option feels more exciting than the visible one. You thank the salesman, hand back the keys, and drive home in the same car you've owned for years. Nothing about it looks impressive, but it's completely paid for. That night, you update your spreadsheet. Then something unexpected happens. You don't open it again for almost a month. Not because you've stopped caring, because you've stopped worrying. The habits are finally doing the work. One evening, while cleaning old files from your laptop, you find the very first spreadsheet you made 6 months earlier. The one with the red numbers, the subscriptions, the debt, the checking balance that used to keep you awake. You compare it with today. Your emergency fund exists. Your credit card balance has dropped dramatically. Your retirement account is growing every payday. Your checking account no longer reaches zero before the month ends. None of those victories happened on the same day. They happened so slowly you almost missed them. That's when the biggest lesson finally becomes obvious. The biggest money mistake wasn't buying expensive things. It wasn't making too little. It wasn't missing the perfect investment. It was believing financial success comes from one big decision. It almost never does. It comes from hundreds of ordinary decisions that nobody applauds. The transfer you automated, the purchase you skipped, the subscription you canceled, the raise you didn't immediately spend, the emergency fund you protected. None of those moments felt important while they were happening. Together, they quietly changed your entire life. Months from now, someone will probably ask how you finally got your finances under control. They'll expect one secret, one book, one investment, one lucky break. You'll probably disappoint them, because the truth is much less exciting. You stopped waiting for motivation. You stopped hoping next month would somehow be different. And you built a system that kept making good decisions, even on the days you didn't feel like making them yourself. Tomorrow morning, you'll still wake up. You'll still make coffee. You'll probably still check your phone before your feet touch the floor. The difference is that the number waiting on the screen no longer tells you who you are. It simply reflects the choices you've been quietly repeating all along. Because in the end, the people who build wealth aren't usually the ones who make the biggest financial decisions. They're the ones who make the smallest good decision. Again, and again, and again.